Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with it another fascinating evening of fast and furious racing action in the one and only iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, the open setup series brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. It is week 2 of the 2025 Season 3 campaign, and we have made our way, still in Belgium, but to a neighbouring circuit from our season open at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. We've made our way quite appropriately for the second week to everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit. It is none other than Circuit Zolder, also known as Circuit Telarmen, depending on your preference. A circuit that is dominated by chicanes, short straights, and sweeping curves. It's a tricky one to get right, but get it right however in qualifying, and you may be on course for ultimate victory over race distance, because while the biggest challenges around here is overtaking opportunities. They do appear, but you've got to be bold, brazen, and absolutely all in on the brakes if you want to come away victorious battling with your rivals. However, those who can qualify up front and pull away, they may just have an easy run of the day. But we'll have to wait to see how it all plays out as we welcome you all to join us live from Circuit Side here on YouTube in this top split broadcast. So 2025 Season 3, we're bringing you all the racing action from the weekly primary slot in the top split, and that's of course every 19:45 GMT. That's Greenwich Mean Time, alternative Universal Coordinate Time UTC slot on the Wednesday of every week for the most part. And today, of course, is none other than Wednesday, the 25th of June, 2025, as we carry on that campaign. We've only got one race on our schedule for tonight, as always, 17 laps in duration, and due to get underway in approximately 4 minutes' time. In the quarantine booth, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action as it unfolds. But speaking of the things that are unfolding, let's unfold away then into the calendar and see where we are. And of course, it is week number 2, and as we mentioned only moments ago, we start off in Belgium and we stay in Belgium. From Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, we head to Circuit Zolder. Last time out, we absolutely opened up on a supreme race with the fact we had the highest I-rating driver in iRacing, Aaron Vasquez, take victory from pole position, albeit not without a close fight with many a driver, including Heidi Nomamasi and Bernardo Faria, who completed your podium. And a big congratulations to Aaron Vasquez in the fact he has broken his way across the 13,000 iRacing barrier as of, I believe, 2 days ago. And whilst he's not on the grid today, unfortunately, I can tell you one thing, we look forward to seeing him back on the grid later this season if he's able to make it. But today we're at Circuit Zolder, and after today we've got plenty of venues to visit, but let's focus on where we are now. And of course, we are located near the Heusden-Zolder region of the Limburg section of Belgium, albeit within the grander region known as the Flanders region, depending on the dialect of the local residents. And this circuit, as we can see from the circuit map provided to us by iRacing.com, a big thank you to iRacing, not just for the simulator, but also the fantastic track maps with it, and many a complex corner around here, where it be the chicanes, including the likes of Jackie Ikbok at turn number 10, or Talambocht at turn number 7, or alternatively the hairpin there at Boulder Behagspielbocht of turns 8 through to Jochen Rimpbock at turn number 9, is a circuit that comes absolutely close as they come when it comes to fast corners, and those fast flowing corners will definitely keep our Porsche Cup drivers on their toes. But as we head in today and go racing around the Grand Prix circuit, a quick reminder of the rules, because we're not allowed to go race without them. This is an open setup series. There is a fixed setup series, but we're focusing on the one that open setups. And that means that our drivers can take whatever setup they choose on the car, so long as it's road legal. That also means that our drivers will be trying to go for the minimum amount of fuel wherever possible in order to lighten the car up. As for our race, the grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is currently underway and due to complete in 3 minutes' time. The race shall commence via a standing start, as it's a tradition of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, and drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points. They go all the way to 25 for off-tracks, contacts, etc. They will be disqualified from the race, but hopefully we don't see any disqualifications. But let's head to Circuit Side then, and as we do, once other drivers coming to a close already in terms of their qualifying times. That was Aaron Baba, who's just set the fastest lap of the qualifying session. That was a 1 minute 29.630. An absolutely brilliant lap there, as we do see Philip Hammer crawling around on the cool-down lap there, having completed his final qualifying times. And most of our drivers have already completed their qualifying laps or coming to the end of them. In this rather enticing strength of field, we do have 22 drivers expected to take to the grid today, unless I'm mistaken. In fact, no, more than 22 drivers. Let's get our numbers correct. 25 drivers. We've got a full split, and we will be seeing in terms of the I rating for this split, well, it says 4,000 I rating there, but that's rounded up to the nearest point of 1,000, but in fact, being a bit more accurate, it's 3,963, so slightly lower than our strength of field of 5,644 from week number 1, but to be fair, this is still a very high strength of field, and with the height of that strength of field, you can imagine our drivers will be trying to go for the ultimate high. But as Dan Bishop, a newcomer to the grid today for the strength of field race, makes his way on out of the final pair of corners, well, this is going to be his final flying lap he's about to complete. Where's he going to put himself? Well, he's currently 19th. We lose him behind the grandstand, and we find him again. He does does improve. It's a personal best of a 32.711, but he's not going any further. As Christian Carlson, meanwhile, well, he moves up into 18th place right at the close of the qualifying session. But that's all the laps completed. Those who are not qualifying, including none other than Thomas Frost, Ruben Martin, Pietro Tokarski, Ville Potonen, and Gian Giannamino, well, they'll be starting from the back of the grid. And well, for those drivers, they'll be hoping there's a little bit of surprise, there's a little bit of drama early on, and that may give them an opportunity to make up some early places. Now, if you are tuning in via YouTube right now, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi. Let us know how you're doing and where you're tuning in from in the YouTube chat. And well, we don't bite here. The only biting you're going to see over the course of this broadcast and every weekly broadcast will be our drivers biting hard on their carbon ceramic brake discs. But as we do see there, Carlson going on the cool-down lap, well, definitely a tricky circuit to get right. And when the fastest lap is 1 minute 29, and the slowest lap that has been set is the best part of a 1 minute 32.7 by Bishop, we can understand the 3-second gulf between all the drivers, and with that gulf, well, it's definitely going to be a sizable gap, and everybody, I do believe right now, be very wary of the fact they've got to get each and every corner right, let alone every lap right, and that consistency is going to be absolutely key. But with our drivers cooling on down here, well, this is an opportunity for everybody just to get themselves mentally set and mentally composed and ready to go. But you can imagine that when we do go to the start-finish line grid, that is where all of a sudden it's going to be visors down, and everybody will be absolutely itching to make some major places, and particularly into turn number 1. Well, that's a prime overtaking opportunity. Most of the major braking zones here are overtaking opportunities, but it's staying close and being able to make them happen. That is the difficulty, as we have had Christian Carlson, in fact, improve right at the close of the session. We thought he had already completed his qualifying laps, but in fact, he's been able to sneak another lap in there, and he moves himself up to 17th. So 20 valid laps set by our drivers, and we do have another 5 drivers who've yet to get a lap on the board, but that's qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how they head to the grid for our race of the day. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up then for the Week 2 top split race of the 2025 Season 3 campaign in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. It is Aaron Baba who takes pole position. The Belgian driver there were 1 minute 29.630, and the only one driver, I believe, to set a 1 minute 29. Everybody else set on 1 minute 30 or higher. And speaking of 1 minute 30, for Adam Mikkelzenzo, well, he lines up in second place there from Poland. Joining them on row number 2, it'll be the German driver, Philipp Hammer, and we'll always keep your eye out for him because he looks to give it everything every week in and out, and he'll be in the company of Jette van Dalen, who starts in 4th. From the Alpha Esports driver, it's then the Dutchman, none other than Chris Loers, who's in the company there of Damir Mahutov, and then we do have on row number 4 the combination of Roger Christensen, and I believe alongside him will be by Alonso. Completing your top 10, it's going to be Stanislav Virbicki and Roman Victor, and then outside the top 10, we'll still plenty more drivers to talk about, including Matt Strand there for Q Controls Reparto, of course, who starts best the rest of the length. He's going to be ahead there only by a place of Colby Warren, who I do see there Justin Mullins cheering on Colby Warren for Delta Sport. We then do have Danny Lee, the infamous British driver there, starting 13th. Alongside him will be Michael Schulze-Kilderbacken, and then we will see on row number 8 the German driver of Yannick Jeske ahead of the Spaniard, I believe that is Kevin Delgado. And then on row number 9 it's going to be Christian Carlson and Ruben Rodriguez Cueto, and completing it your top 20, Tomek Zawisky and Dan Bishop. Outside the top 20, let's not forget about the drivers who didn't get a valid lap on the board. It's going to be their 21st Thomas Frost ahead of Ruben Martin. And on the final full ride of the grid, it's Pietro Tokarski ahead of Ville Potonen. And Gian Giannamino will be completing your starting order of 25 drivers from Brazil, will be the number 22 driver, but he's got it all to do from the back of the field. But as we come back down to the circuit side, we are not too far away from going green flag racing. In fact, everybody's set. The lights are going on, ladies and gentlemen. And for the second time this season, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5. And it's lights out, away we go here at Circuit Zolder, and Aaron Bauer gets a good start as Mikkelzenko looks to tuck him behind. Look further back, you see Philipp Hammer there, he's had a reasonable start as well, but he's fallen back as he does have Phelan looking to go around the outside of him. The whole field makes its way through, snaking through the opening couple of corners. Oh no, that's gone very wrong there, and that is Alonso being ejected outstage left at the rear of the picture, but it looks like the rest of the field has been able to survive the opening corner, and now as they make the way on past the solar panels and up towards turn number 3, well, this is where things now start to get very line astern very quickly, because now it's all going to be about trying to warm those tyres up, and those who can make the early gains, they may find themselves being a little bit profitable, but those who can't, they're going to fall behind, as we see other drivers here line astern all the way down to the chicane, albeit we say that, and then further on back we do have a battle there between Martin Zawisky and Potonen, and Ville Potonen making some great ground there in the Penzol number 20. We'll be up 21st already from a 24th place start, but now he's got more to do. And here by Alonso, well, he's been able to get the car recovered, and he's right on the back of Dan Bishop here at the back of the field. He's going to look around the outside to the inside here into Talam and box chicane, and well, I think it's going to be straightforward to pass, and Bishop doesn't fight it too hard there, respecting the fact that Alonso did qualify a bit higher than him, and therefore doesn't want to hold up a driver who's faster this early on in the game. But as they get their heads down here and now start to settle in, Schulze Kittelbacken, meanwhile, looking for a run around the outside of Thomas Frost there. Is he able to get it coming through turn number 8? We'll have to wait and see, and I believe he's just been able to do it. A lovely move there. And the very similar liveried machines, well, he's going to prove to be the one with the better portion of the red and white stripes. Albeit saying that, it's going to be a look back here. Frost goes back up the inside. Oh, they get elbows out there. And it looks like Thomas Frost in the end lets his rival rejoin, but not about taking the place off him. And I'm sure there's going to be a bit more between them. But in front of them, we've got a battle here for 7th place. And that's Warren versus Verbicki. And Warren's up the inside there. And good old Colby Warren making some great ground there as he moves up into 7th place. 5 places gained since the start. He's definitely been one of the quickest starters. And speaking of quick starter, Thomas Frost, oh no, that's gone very wrong there, and Delgado goes around the outside of a stranded Schulze Kittelbach, and well, we can see Rodriguez Cueto and Martin also making some progress there, and well, that went very wrong for a German driver. However, he's been able to survive it, and I think we're going to see a bit more battling between them later on in this race, as we will have the number 12 let's try and recover the places. But meanwhile, we see Verbicki versus Danny Lee, and well, Danny Lee defending there on the inside in towards the Klein chicane, and the number 11 driver there will making some great ground early on in this race. On lap number 2, he's now having to try and hold on to all the ground he's gained. He'll go defensive on the outside line, and that's going to give him the opportunity to take a very tight entry line. Does he get the car stopped in time? He does, but notice there how everybody now forming into the concertina effect, and with that, it's going to give Colby Warren in 7th place an opportunity to now start to pull away. But onwards they go, and as our cameraman picks up a drive coming down towards turn number 8, well, it looks though there already we are seeing the pronounced effects for Verbicki, Christensen, and also Thomas Frost all deciding, you know what, not going to go for it, as Lee there slides loose coming out of turn number 8, but keeps it together, and onwards they'll go then towards the final corner of Jochen Ringbach chicane. But as they head in towards that braking zone, no change between them at the moment. Meanwhile, Tomek Sabicki, well, he's battling side by side here with Jeske, and Jeske on the outside here. This could get very close, as we can see up there the Martini Porsche holding the line, and that's going to be straight on and around goes Sabicki, but meanwhile Patonen decides to avoid all the chaos. Jeske there has to slow down and serve a slowdown penalty for cutting the chicane, and well, both of them there will lose a huge number of places as they go into lap number 3. It's drama early doors for these guys. However, they can still potentially get those places back a little bit later on, as into the pit lane has come Dan Bishop, I believe, with damage on the car. I'm looking at my commentator booth window. I can't see anything visible at the moment, but then again, he is quite far away from where we're sat in the commentator booth. But looking to Roman Richter here, and he's lost 4 places since the start, but now trying to make some regains over the course of the first half of this race in a very colourful livery machine. And the gold and black, really a lovely contrast. And Delgado, Kevin Delgado behind him, watching on earnestly here and thinking, how can I potentially have an opportunity to make a move on the golden machine? Well, we jump on board here, and let's give a listen in to that number 17. And well, the aim of the game here, of course, will be to get a good run out of the chicane and over the rise, but he doesn't get anywhere near close enough this time. It is a very tricky thing to try and follow another car around Circuit Zolder, because if you can see, these cars quite... Whoa! Oh no, and he tapped the rear. Oh, Richter goes on through him, and well, that's going to enable Martin to go around the outside of the pair of them, and well, I believe that's a bit of misanticipation under braking after what was a mistake there for his rival, and well, in the end, it is going to be a place gained by Kevin Delgado, but he'll lose a place as much as he gained one. So drama there at the turn box chicane, but with that, it does mean now more places will be swapped as he goes very deep there, almost loses as he tries to get the power down, and well, just behind Yannick Jeske there, the man who really lost out on the previous lap, he's already coming back into the back of this pack. But we've been talking a lot about the drives towards the rear of the field. What about the front of the field? Well, there's the distant camera shot, and the man who's gradually making his way closer and closer to our cameraman, who zooms out the lens there, a little bit afraid of the number 2. It's Aaron Baba, the pole sitter in the number 2, who right now are running away with this race. And I say running away because he is 1.1 seconds clear of Jentel van Vielen, and the Belgian driver here in the number 4, trying to keep him honest. However, he's got his own considerations in the fact he gained 2 places at the start, beating Adam Mikazenko and also Philip Hammer to the punch in towards turn number 1. But right now, they are looking to be breathing back down his neck as they roll him through the chicane. And, well, we need to get some replays of some of the incidents that happened. And we start off with the instant on lap number 1, turn number 1, by Alonso. Now, we've take a look back here, it was a reasonable start for Alonso, but you'll notice they're slow into the braking zone, and as they made their way 3 wide in fact 4 wide, well, that, I believe, was the number 10 being turned, and Alonso on the outside of it being collected there as collateral. And the number 10 car being turned was Matt Strand, who found himself in a very innocent position, and, well, I think that'd be a bit frustrating for him. Can we get a replay on board with Matt Strand in that instance? Yes, we can. This was on board with Strand at the time, and as he made his way into the braking zone, you'll see here, holding his line, car dives to the inside, gets tapped, and, well, he'll feel there's Alonso. You briefly saw him getting ejected to the side of the picture, and that explains the story. But we also need to take a look at some later instance. After that, we did have a bit of a moment for Tomek Sabicki, and, well, this is what happened to Sabicki as he rolled his way on around, and, well, in the end being ejected out wide on turns 2 and 3, and, well, I believe able to get away with this. Indeed, he was able to in the Martini Porsche. Just about his rivals let him come back on, but it's so easy to run wide out there, particularly on cold tyres. We also had this happen on lap number 1 to John Geronimo, and, well, coming on through the chicane here, both drives side by side on entry. But on the exit there, Lewis in the rear, and Alonso having to take evasive action, and Dan Bishop as well, getting caught, and that's why Bishop was in the pit lane, because he got shafted by trying to go around the outside and in into the barrier, and the damage to the car. Well, those are your open lap instants, and let's come back to plenty more racing now, as we've got a long way to go over the race distance. I'm sure more on the cards here between all the drivers as they rumble on. But speaking of rumbling on here, as we do look to Danny Lee, who is behind Adam Mikazenko, and Mikazenko in fact losing a lot of places, and Danny Lee having a very poor run. Let's go see Roger Christensen making his way on past, and now Frost versus Lee coming out of the chicane and into a Salaman box, and, well, Lee's going to lose 3 places for the price of 1 error, it would seem, and, well, he drops all the way down to 10th place. However, never say never, because he can always come back, and you can understand if he'll be very eager to try and make a better impression as we go a little bit deeper into the race distance, but definitely not the way we expected that to go. And, well, as they roll on around here, will we see another battle at this time? I don't think we will. I think they're going to stay as they are for the brief moment, but be certain anything can happen, and it normally does in Porsche Cup racing all the way through to the very end of the race distance. But these drivers right now, they'll all know that they've got to make those tyres last, and whilst these races are typically the best part of only 25 minutes in these Porsche Cup cars, that's not too long. These are sprint races. However, the one change you do have is the fact that you want to push the tyre very hard, but push it overly hard, and you end up with difficulty, as that is a lap down with Gian Geronimo, and he's just had to tow to the pits. We saw him out there, and the outside of turn number 1, pretty much in the gravel and practically onto the pit lane exit. We'll try and get a replay of what happened to him very shortly, but that's not a common thing to see there, and I can imagine something's gone very, very wrong for the Brazilian driver, and we have, as a result, now had 4 cars come to the pit lane, 2 of which have officially retired in the form of Tokarski and also Alonso, and I believe Bishop might be out of this race, and Geronimo might also be, depending on whether he can get the repair work done on the car. Oh, that's a big leap there for Thomas Frost, and just about brings it back down to earth. We do normally see cars go airborne at the kind of chicane, but sometimes you don't want to go that airborne, and the suspension definitely will have felt that. You won't want to do that too often, because otherwise that number 8 Porsche suspension might end up becoming severely damaged. But he's been one of the biggest gainers of them all. Remember, he started from towards the very back of the field. He started 21st. He was the highest of the drivers who did not set a valid lap time, but in the end he was able to make a lightning start. And Frost has made his way all the way up into 9th place, and is still trying to campaign his way up the order. But now he finds himself in a very closely matched pack, as he has to step aside there. And I think that's going to be for an automated slowdown penalty for cutting the chicane. He's burning the time, and Lee here is going to battle with him. And you can see there Frost trying to play it tactically on the slowdown, but Lee's going to have the outside to inside. And for the number 11 driver, it's a straightforward pass there. Absolutely textbook. But the problem is Frost has gone for a textbook cutback, and heading down towards turn number 1 here. It's going to be too wide in towards the braking zone. Well, Frost is going to look around the outside. Lee defends hard to the inside, but on a very tight line, compromises his entry entirely. But I think they're trying to take the confidence, which is Frost will have to go deep. Frost does exactly that, so Lee gets a nose back ahead for now, but into turn number 2, he's going to sweep it all the way around the outside. Has he got the confidence in the car here? 2 wide, they go through 2. In towards 3 they come, still there as they make the way into the right end of 4, but now under braking here, well, Frost is going to have that inside line, and it naturally tapers towards the later apex point at turn number 4. So if you're on that inside line, you've got your nose slightly ahead, you normally do win that battle unless you brake too early for the corner. And Lee tries to come back there under braking in towards the chicane, but he's not able to get it done. In fact, rolls a little bit deep. That'll bleed off some speed there, and we're already settling down into that position. So as we start to make our way towards the halfway point, well, the big battles are coming down, but we've still got some brilliant battles in amongst the top 10 pack. We've also got a fight going for 4th place here as we look back from the rear of your 4th place man in the number 7, and this is Damir Makhmutov, as we briefly lose him from Materi for any returns from it. Oh no, and that's a tap to the rear from Chris Lowers, and Lowers goes absolutely around there into the gravel, a bit too eager into the hairpin, and as a result just tapping the rear Makhmutov, and in that situation, all the way to the car, coming around very quickly and being made to decelerate much faster than expected, and Lowers in the end losing 2 places there to Mikozenko and also to Christensen, but he'll try and come back as he straight lines the chicane. I wonder whether that slide and the spin has potentially overheated his tyres, and therefore he can't get the car stopped at the moment. He's trying to cool the car down, and well, he's only going to pick up an automated slowdown penalty for that cut, and that means he's going to lose even more time, as I understand him would go, as he heads on to lap number 8, but right now definitely not a very happy number 9 car out there, and not where he wants to be. Further on down the order, we jump on board here with your 15th place runner. This is Michael Schulze-Kilderbach, and well, as he heads on around turn number 1, he's in pursuit there. Ruben Martin, as they fight over 14th place. Well, these two drivers had very different fortunes. For Schulze-Kilderbach, he started 14th, dropped a place. Ruben Martin, meanwhile, starting 22nd, he's gained 8 places. So you would imagine that right now, the number 16 that sits in front of the driver we're on board with, well, he'll be very eager to make sure he doesn't lose this position. Whereas Michael here, who we ride on board with, well, he'll just be very eager to try and get the place he started on back from his rival, because the one thing you normally want to do when you're racing, whether it's in a sprint, an endurance race, or somewhere in between, you always want to finish at least where you started, if not higher where possible, and well, right now he'll want to get that place back. But coming over the crest and down through the long left sweeper at turn number 6, well, no change at the moment, and Martin just holding his line, and I think this is going to be the story between these two. Can we see any pronounced differences in the way they're approaching these corners? Well, one thing that's definitely noticeable there, Martin taking much more open approaches towards the chicane. They're really having to rotate the car around from a wide line. Meanwhile, Schulze-Kilderbach absolutely attacking, really laser precise into the chicane, and I would imagine that's potentially a difference in confidence levels and how they've got the car set up, where for Martin, he might have a little bit of understeer inherently in the car, whereas for Schulze-Kilderbach, he might be driving a little bit more on the throttle, because remember, with these Porsche 992 Cup cars, the whole idea is rear engine, rear wheel drive. In the ideal world for cornering machines, it's the mantra Porsche. You put the engine over the rear axle, the flat inline straight 6, and the idea behind it is that essentially as the weight of the car rotates around behind you as a driver, you feather the throttle in order to push that weight back down. So remember, when you put the throttle down, the engine buries itself over the rear axle. That's the whole idea. And conversely, it means that the rear of the car settles very quickly and you can charge out of the corner. But if you don't get it right, you're very at the risk of oversteer, and excess oversteer means you normally do what will be a 180-degree turn at some point where the car completely snaps round on you unless you can perform some very quick reactive action. And that's what makes these Porsche 992 Cup cars some of the hardest to drive in the world, but also an absolute gateway into the world of GT class racing, because they are some of the best cars to race, given how close they race, 510 horsepower, and indeed at your fingertips is a machine that screams to 9,000 RPM before the upshift, and along the way it is a car that absolutely brings joy when you get a corner right. But here right now, our battle between 15th and 14th doesn't really change. And again, Schulze-Kilderbach close, but because of the fact he gets so close to the back of Martin into the first part of the Lerman box chicane, it does mean he ends up losing all the momentum through the final sweeper, and that's going to put him on the rear foot. As Ville Patorna, meanwhile, well, he's dropped a little bit further back, as we can see the number 20 car that was closing, but he's had a bit of an altercation through the chicane and therefore not carried the momentum he would like. However, coming from outside the top 15, we now make our way back inside the top 5, because we are looking at 5th place man Colby Warren, who started in 12th place. He's made an absolutely lightning start to this, and now he's really trying to move onwards. And well, good credit to him, but the problem is he does have the growing presence of the number 5, Mikozenko, right behind, but we'll come to that in a second, because that's a move from Chris Lowers up the inside there. Thomas Frost trying to get the place back, but Frost here trying to be crafty like he did with Danny Lee earlier on, trying to go for the cutback run, but gets it a little bit late on the timing there, and he's going to tap the rear of Lowers, coming out of 3, in towards 4 they go, and that is not going to be a change. They will stay where they are. The only thing that Lowers does have to worry about right now is the fact that Frost is absolutely glued to the rear of them. You can see 2 tenths is the delta between them, but under braking here, there's not going to be any change at the moment. But Thomas Frost, to be fair, very smart with the draft in the car, and also very clever with the cutback runs, and well, it's proven quite pivotal for him in terms of making places previously. He's going to have to work a little bit harder here if he wants to find his way past Chris Lowers, who in turn wants to get the place he lost back. He wants to be back inside the top 5. He has top 5 pace, but it's going to be much harder for him to get those places back, given he's got to try and close down a 4-second gap to Roger Christensen. whilst all this is happening and these battles, we have had a change of position for full team. We have had Zolder get back ahead of Martin. And, well, exactly how was that move made? Here's the replay to explain. Now, this was coming into the client chicane, and Martin goes straight on there, so that will have picked him up a slowdown penalty, but he'll also lift off the throttle to settle the car down, and then ensure the back making the move there, putting enough mental pressure on his rival, and Martin, in the end, just getting it wrong under braking. So easy to do, even for the finest. But let's return to your live racing, and still more to come then as we trip our way onto lap number 11 of 17. And, well, our leader still just pulling away at a distance right now. Aaron Barber running away. 2.7 seconds is the gap at this time to the man behind him, who you see in the rear of the picture. That's Jentel Van Vielen. And then we do have Philip Hammer. That's your top three all together. And it's a further 4 seconds back before you get to Damit Makhmutov. And, well, he is 4 seconds clear of the hunt for fifth. And Colby Warren right now, the American driver here, under pressure. Here comes Mikuzenko. He thinks about it. He wants to go for the move, but I think he's also cognizant of the fact if he goes for it too early and they fight side by side through the chicane, then Christensen will look for the move, but he's going to go for it now as he squeezed the edge of the road. That is a very close move there from Warren, but he gives it the space, and Mikuzenko on the inside here in towards Talaman box, and it is going to be a move there. Adam Mikuzenko making it absolutely smooth as they come. Great racing respect being shown between the drivers there, and Colby Warren, he could have perhaps been a bit more forceful beyond what he was, but I think respecting the fact he gave the minimum room there to Mikuzenko. He could have made him put 2 tyres onto the grass for a brief moment, but in the end, awareness and, well, great racing respect shown. But now here comes Christensen, who's on the attack as we ride on board the dashboard of the number 1. And, well, the man who's the highest iRating driver, and for the uninitiated to iRacing, how do we tell who the highest rated driver is in a given iRacing official race? It is by their door number. Number 1 means you're the highest iRated driver. Meanwhile, if you're all the way down to lowest number, in this case 25, that means you're the lowest rated driver, but that means also you can make the biggest iRating ranking gains, whereas the number 1 driver, for every place they lose away from victory, they normally lose some iRating, so it really does become high stakes, high reward, the higher your iRating goes. But from ratings to positions right now, well, Christensen wants to try and find a way through, and, well, no way through at the moment as he sits behind Colby Warren, but these three separated by the best part of only 9 tenths from nose to tail from Mikuzenko to Christensen, and, well, understandably here, we could see a little bit of shuffling of the order, particularly if Christensen gets close to Warren, but I don't think Warren's just going to simply roll back towards Christensen. I think he's going to be very eager to try and get back ahead of Mikuzenko. Mikuzenko does seem to establish some control over this 5th place at the moment as they come through the chicane. 2 wheels up there for Warren. Takes a lot of the apex curve of the second part, but Christensen too close to really capitalise there, and therefore now has to wait into Talan box. But you can see the body language of the cars. Warren there sliding a little bit on entry compared to Mikuzenko and also Christensen. Despite Christensen being in the dirtier of 2 cars, he does seem to be a little bit more fine-tuned at the moment, and that might be the delta between them as they head down towards the turn at number 8. Coming onto the braking zone for the hairpin here. And through the right hand they go. Christensen close, but not close enough to the back of Warren. Oh, goodness me, and that's a mistake there for Mikuzenko. He gets oversteer out to the hairpin. Oh, that's very close. And Roger Christensen in the end, well, all the space was on the right with Mikuzenko coming across, but he decides to go the hard way round. He just about squeezed on through, but my good lord, oh, that's brave. And then there's some after that. That is going to be definitely one of the highlights of the season there, in the fact that Christensen deciding to go the hard way round. But as they come down towards turn number 1, well, Warren's back up into 5th place after Mikuzenko making a small mistake, but I can imagine this may not be over yet, and this is one of the biggest fights. This is the highest place fight at the moment for 5th through to 7th, and these 3 drivers absolutely pushing each other to the limit. As we can see, the sim shop number 6, well, right now definitely all smiles down in the garage, but they need to get it to the end. They've got 4 laps to go after this one. But rolling on through, we also do have potentially the prospect here of a bit of a battle for 15th between Villa Patornum and also Ruben Martin and Yannick Jeske, and all those 3 separated by 2 seconds in totality. And the Penzol number 20 right now, continuing onwards from where it started, 24 from the starting grid. But as we see him making his way in towards the right-hander here, or that turn at number 4, well, it's looking quite comfortable. And in terms of his pace, he is faster on average by about 3 tenths a lap versus Martin. So you would understand if he's feeling confident he can gradually break away. In fact, I think we might be able to bring up some lap time data between the 2 of them and be able to give you an idea of exactly how the lap time history has played out. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, and there you can see the average delta, well, the previous lap, in fact, Martin having an absolute nightmare of a lap, 1.3 seconds slower, but on average it would seem that we are looking at about 2 to 3 tenths a lap going the way of Villa Patornen versus Ruben Martin. And, well, understandably, our number 20 driver here should theoretically just gradually pull away and chase after Schulze Kilderback in short order. However, theory is one thing, practice is another. Not long left for these drivers, and therefore now it becomes the consideration of have they got the tyre life and have they got the strength left to carry on. In the fact there will be a lot of physical exertion here, not just to the car but also the driver behind the wheel in the sim racing cockpit, and we're being the peak of the summer right now for most of these drivers around the world, as that's a big side there from Delgado, and that's going to be an opportunity here for Roman Richter to look to the inside. He's already positioned himself there, or has he? No, he hasn't. Not long enough for a run there, hasn't got the straight line speed. He'll now go for it under braking. Delgado does not shut the door because he believes in the supremacy of going outside to inside, and will exit in the corner here. Too wide they go for 18th place, onto lap number 14 for them, but again you can see Richter tucking back in behind as he makes his way down towards turn 1, and then coming back out of 2 minds. He's going to go for under braking. That's a very late dive, however it's a smooth one. He gets it stopped in time, and Roman Richter moves up into 18th place ahead of Delgado. Smooth moves there for the number 14, and Delgado tries to come back there but isn't going to find it at this time, or is he? Well, we look back from the rear of the man who's just made the move. He is 8 places down on where he started. He started this race in 10th place, so he won't be too happy with how far down he's fallen. Understandably, however, he'll be happy to have made at least 1 place back, and he'll want a couple more before all is said and done. The only problem is he's now got a 12-second gap to Yeske in 17th, and that is a very long gap to haul down in the space of 3 remaining laps the next time around. And I think here he'll just be trying to pull away and then settle for whatever comes to the rest of the day. Over the crest and down he goes, and pulling away into that race distance. Well, from him then we come all the way back to your race leader as he heads on to lap number 15. There's Baba, and we're still flying away there by 3.7 seconds over Van Vielen. And then we do have Philip Hammer making his way on through the top 3 there. It does look as though Hammer, in fact, is now starting to turn up the pace. Fastest sector 1 on the previous lap of anybody over race distance. Personal best on that previous lap of a 1 minute 29.87. That's only a tenth of the fastest lap of this race, and set by Jentel Van Vielen, and that was set much earlier on at a 29.75. So therefore Hammer, he's kept everything in reserve. I think he feels confident the pace is coming, but right now, speaking of pace is coming, well, battles are coming here. That's too wide between Christensen and Mikkelsenko, and coming down towards the chicane then, into the Klein chicane. Or is it going to be up the inside there for Christensen? Yes, it is to defend. Mikkelsenko tucks back in behind, very close. They jump their way over the chicane, and we ride on board there as we come crashing back down to earth. Some rear bumper damage on the back of Christian's car, but Mikkelsenko right now won't be wanting to add to it. He looks up the inside, late on the brakes he goes. Too wide they enter, they rub doors. Do they survive it? Yes, they do. Mikkelsenko still on the inside there, coming out of the chicane. It's now through the sweeping double right, and he's going to be all the way up the hill here battling, but he has to back on the throttle. He can't just flat foot it as they come down towards turn number 8 then. You can see Christensen looking around the outside. This will be for 6th place here. It's an important pass if he can make it, Mikkelsenko, but Christensen goes deep. He goes very deep, and that's going to enable Adam Mikkelsenko to get the place back. Chris Lowers, meanwhile, now says, okay, can I come out to play? And they'll both be going, no, go away. But right now, Lowers is going to be saying, I wasn't asking, I want my places back from much earlier on. And a big mistake there for Christensen, taking too much apex curb, going in towards the Aki chicane, and that is going to cost him a lot of speed as Christensen now under pressure from Lowers. Lowers looking around the outside there, I think deciding to go to the wall too early, and that in fact giving Christensen all the confidence just to crowd him towards the pit wall. But they will have 1 more lap after this one, so therefore Christensen right now, as much as he's going defensive, understandably Lowers here might be thinking to himself, okay, if he's going to react like that, let's try and work on that, and let's try and see if we can goad him into an error on this lap, because drivers were a little bit stat reactive early on. They're normally under a lot of mental pressure, and if you're the driver giving chase, you can try to use that pressure to your advantage and just simply be absolutely all over the back of your rival like a bad rash. But in fact, now they come down in towards turn number 5, it does seem as though Christian's been able to get himself back into the composure, and well, with that composure he'll be feeling as though it is going to be a run here where he might just be able to stay safe into the alarm box. If he can get that right, he may then be able to open up the gap a little bit further, but we will see, as Mikkelsenko meanwhile has definitely opened up a 1.2 second gap. He is running away with this. Now he's clear, and I wouldn't be surprised here if we start to see him try to put in a personal best lap on the final lap of this race in order to cement his run to 6th place. Although he started in 2nd, didn't quite work out at the start of the race, lost out quite early, but still, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, and he'll finish on a relative high. But the white flag waves, and as it does, your race leader comes across the line then to go on to 1 final lap. Aaron Baba leading almost by 4 seconds versus Van Vielen. And then we do have Philip Hammer closing there on the 2nd place man. The gap now being brought down by a couple more attempts. In fact, by 3 attempts on that lap. So Hammer leaving it late in the race to really show his pace. But one thing I can tell you from experience of covering Philip Hammer racing over the course of many a year, as he is one of those drivers, he may not be the fastest outright, particularly at the start of the race. But the one thing he's very good at doing is pacing himself over race distance, and his consistency is one of the reasons why he is considered to be a top split driver in Porsche Cup racing, because he just has this ability to extract continual lap time out the car in a way quite similar to a Michael Schumacher of the Formula One world, in the fact you give him a lap time to hit and he will keep hitting it non-stop so long as it's within his reach. And Hammer demonstrating that the fact the tyres might be old, but right now those low lap times, they're not going anywhere upwards, they are staying consistently low, and that is what's enabling him to get close to Van Veelen. I think if we had 5 more laps after this, we could definitely have a fight for second place in our hands, but of course we can't have 5 more laps. We can only have this one final lap because it's a 17 lap race, not 22, and well, that's mathematics for you, as our top 3 now make the way into the camera. But as they come on through, well, there is second and third, but right now your leader of Aaron Baba, well, he put it on pole position, the only man to deliver a 1 minute 29. It was a 29.6 in qualifying, and it has been a smooth race for the number 2. But as the checker flag waves, Aaron Baba, it is going to be week number 2 that comes to him victoriously, as he takes the checker flag there by 3.9 seconds over Jentel Van Veelen, and then Philip Hamel complete your podium at Circuit Zolder. We then have Damien Makhmutov. He will take home 4th place there from 6th on the grid. He finishes in 4th. He'll be absolutely pleased with that. With Colby Warren finish inside the top 5. Brilliant job from the American driver in the number 6. Adam Mikuzenko will hold on to 6th place at the close, fend off Roger Christensen, and then we'll have Chris Lowers just behind in 8th place, with your top 10 being completed by Thomas Frost, who held off Danny Lee in a sprint to the finish. Lee completes your top 10 with Matt Strand in 11th in a very quiet race of Strand. It's exactly where he started, is where he finished, in a bit of a no man's land race. And then we did see in 12th, well, it was none other than Christian Carlson, and well, it looks like it's a bit of a scramble to the finish line, albeit behind Carlson. It's then Schulze-Kettelbach, that's Michael Schulze-Kettelbach, finishing 13th ahead of Ville Patronen and Ruben Martin, who completes your top 15, and we'll have Roman Richter shortly heading towards the line. It will only be 16th for him in a bit of a difficult race, and then Kevin Delgado takes 17th place behind him, and well, we will then in due course have a couple more drivers come to the finish line. In fact, he's a couple of laps down, but he has got the car repaired. He's 4 laps down, and Dan Bishop sees the checker flag. Well done to him after that shunt into the barrier on the exit of the final corner, lap number 1. But great to see him get to the checker flag, and that's what it's all about. But in the fight for 18th place, well, Ruben Rodriguez Cueto takes home that position, and behind him now, I believe, was the 22nd place car, Jean Giannonio, and well, he was 4 laps down as well, with Tomek Sabicki finishing off your lead lap finishing order in 19th place there, in a bit of a quiet race for him in the Martini Porsche. So, 17 laps turned, and with it, plenty of race, no doubt about it. But as our circuit falls silent, let's take you through those race results, subject to any steward's inquiries, ladies and gentlemen. And here they are for the week number 2, top split broadcast on a 1945 GMT or UTC slot on a Wednesday, the 25th of June 2025. And for this race in the 2025 Season 3 campaign of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, Erin Baba absolutely dominant the privateer and taking victory in the end by 3.9 seconds over Alpha Esports' Jentel Van Veelen. Still, as we can see there, it was a 1-2 for Belgian drivers at their home circuit, and they'll be very happy about that, albeit everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, but they'll consider it their favourite given how it's rewarded them. And in 3rd place, Philip Hammer from Germany round off that podium there, and will the number 3 finish in P3, quite poetic, I think you'll agree. In 4th, it was Damien Makhmutov in a good race from him, albeit 9 seconds off of the podium, but the flip side of the coin is really best of the rest. He was 5 seconds clear over Colby Warren, the Delta Sport driver from America there, having a brilliant start to his race, and in the end finishing on the high, ahead of Adam Mikuzenko, the Polish driver there, losing out from that 2nd place start, but not losing out to Chris Lowers, the Dutchman, who absolutely hustled midway through the race after an early incident, but it wasn't enough to get him back into the top 5. Thomas Frost was 8th, having started all the way down. In fact, classified 9th on the road, but 8th in the finish. We've lost a driver here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me double check what's happened. And, well, I now have got an update. Roger Christensen has been demoted from 7th place finish all the way down to 17th. I believe that is for a post-race automated penalty. That could be potentially for a slowdown that wasn't served. Alternatively, picking up a drive-through for instant points that was not served before the end of the race. So that's why we have lost none other than Roger Christensen, who would have finished in 7th place, but he's down in 17th. So with that adjusted order, Chris Lowers taking the 7th place, ahead of Thomas Frost, and well, Frost gaining 13 places since the race start. Well done to him, having started from very back of the field, with Danny Lee there promoted to 9th place, ahead of Matt Strand, who in the end will gain the place, not for an overtake, but by post-round stewarding, and will complete the top 10 there for Cube Control's Reparto course. Behind the Norwegian is fellow countryman Christian Carlson, and then we did see round off the top 15, it was Michael Schulze-Kettelbach, Ville Patronen, Ruben Martin, and Roman Richter. Then from the Czech driver, it was none other than Kevin Delgado, ahead of Roger Christensen with that late demotion for Grid and Go. Well, he'll be absolutely fuming about that one and definitely not set up for success in this instance. However, there's plenty more weeks to come and plenty more days of racing to come for week number 2. And then it was none other than 18th place, Ruben Rodriguez Cueto, ahead of Tomek Sibicki and Stanislav Virbicki, completing your top 20. For Virbicki, it was a lap down after a late incident in the race, and also it was a lap down there, or multiple laps down we should say, 3 in particular for Yannick Jeske, the German driver. He was a lap ahead of Jean Geronimo, and the Brazilian driver then being followed up by Dan Bishop, who, despite an early shunt, had to come into the pits and spend the best part of 10 minutes in the pit lane having the car repaired, but when all was said and done, still finishing the race under his own volition, and very happy to see that. We unfortunately did have retirements for Peter Tokarski and also Ibai Alonso, and the Asturias esports driver there from Spain, definitely having a race to forget. About 25 starters, a grand total of 23 finishers, of which we did see 19 on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen, and that brings our racing here at Circuit Zolder for week number 2 to a close. But goodness me, what a race. But in the end, could Erin Bauer be touched? No, he could not, and ran away into the distance ahead of Jentel Van Veerlen and Philip Hammer. That was your top 3. But without further ado, of course, what has been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, let's have a word regarding our title sponsor for this season. And, well, let's see what they're all about. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. So a big thank you to CONSPIT for being our title sponsor for the iRacing Porsche Cup Open Setup Series. And next time, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way for week number 3 to Brazil. And on Wednesday, the 2nd of July, 2025, is a visit to the Interlagos circuit, or known in full as the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. A circuit that's very different from our opening 2 weeks of circuit because it's full of altitude changes, some major elevation changes over the course of the race distance, and absolutely brimming with corner variety, along with some incredibly long straights. But who will prove themselves to be the master at the Brazilian circuit? We'll tune in a week's time to find out. But until then, we've been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit in the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.